Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Friday morning, progressives, and welcome to the March 28th. We're almost there. 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Catch us on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Probably going to have another drop on Substack over the weekend. Lots of stuff to talk about and post there. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, the short versions and the long versions, my shows and stuff. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez, driving you home. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows. Check out heartlandsignal.com on our digital platform and share the stuff. We're busy this morning. Right now, how could we not be? I guess I'll put it to you that way. I'm going to have a question that I'm going to throw at you for the day. It's a big question, but it's one that we'll put to you today. Let's put it that way. Make sure to check out Joan, live, local, and progressive. She'll be taking your calls in the first half hour of the show today, then welcoming Craig Budakowski of Mark Drugs and Darlene Dugan of the Anti-Cruelty Paid of the Month segment. At 4 o'clock, Joan will be joined by Chicago artist Tony Fitzpatrick. Cool, very cool. And Mark Turcotte, distinguished writer in residence at DePaul University, and Alec Eisenstadt, reporter for Axios and author of Revenge, the inside story of Trump's return to power. That's Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, 2 to 5 p.m. today. Tonight, Patty will be driving it home, talking to Janie Macumber Griot of Midwest Forest Bathing. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez, 5 to 7 weekdays here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Make your way over there. Next week, busy show again, busy week. We've got Illinois State Reps Anna Moeller and Debbie Myers-Martin and Carol Ammons, plus Dr. Susan McConnell of Let It Be Us, the premier foster and adoptive parent recruitment agency in the state of Illinois. Pat Delvaney of the Illinois AFL-CIO talking about the We Are One Coalition. So we will be busy next week, and looking forward to bringing you guys the best that we've got. That's our commitment. That's my commitment to you. So we're going to stand on that business. So that's what's happening, guys. Today, Karen Byrne, our great friend from True Blue Politics podcast, will be with us, hanging with us this morning in the 7 o'clock hour. And at 7:30, author, historian, Michelle Duster, none other than, will be with us today. So we're looking forward to talking to Michelle here as we, I don't want to say wrapping up or coming to the end, because every month should be Women's Month. But as it's being celebrated, Michelle will be talking about that in one of her new articles. She is a prolific writer and thought-provoking writer, just amazing woman, and you'll appreciate hearing from her this morning. So looking forward to talking to Michelle in the 7:30 hour. But keeping it moving forward, as Henry says, keep going, Chew, keep going. We're going to make our way over to a little bit of Choose Views News this morning on March 28th, 2025. We knew it was coming. The White House sets 25% auto tariffs. The Trump administration is imposing those on all cars not made in the United States effective April 2nd, marking an escalation of the White House's trade war offensive. The move threatens to disrupt operations for North American automakers, which are reliant on supply chains through the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. The tariffs will likely lead to higher prices on foreign-made cars. Roughly half of all vehicles sold in the United States are imported, according to the analyst reports. So, markets are being immediately affected by that conversation. Separately, the White House plans to impose tariffs on imported pharmaceuticals and lumber. While a trade investigation into lumber is already underway, it's also setting an inquiry into pharmaceuticals. So, guys, we know the reciprocal tariffs are coming. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But it's just, it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. But we know that they're coming, so we have to brace ourselves. And businesses are, it's simple math. They're going to pass on those costs to consumers. We know that. So the judge extends a federal firing pause, giving probationary, I should say, government workers at least 5 more days on the job. Maryland Judge James K. Bredar, who had earlier ruled that layoff probationary workers could return to their roles temporarily, said yesterday he needed a little bit more time to weigh the aspects of the case. At issue is whether workers in all states should be reinstated or only those in states involved in an ongoing lawsuit. 19 states have sued to stop the firing, citing harm from the abrupt surge in unemployment, and that is affecting local economies. So this is how stupid the entire administration is. Trump at the head. It's stupid because it impacts local economies, but he doesn't care about that because he only ran because he wanted to stay out of prison. And 78 million Americans said, we want him out of prison and wrecking our lives. Come through our neighborhoods and with the wrecking ball, Donald Trump. We're just going to let you. We're going to just bend over and let you come through with a wrecking ball, tear up our neighborhoods, wreck our supply chains and all the rest. What dumb A's. Anyhow, there you go. U.S. is cutting 10,000 health department jobs. Unfortunately, the Health and Human Services department is set to undergo a sweeping restructuring. Yesterday, Mr. Wormbrain, RFK Jr., announced a 10,000-person reduction in headcount and the closing of half of HHS's regional offices. So now people are going to have work issues, which could lead to medical issues, and we won't have the support systems in local communities to help take care of people who may need those ancillary services. I'll just cut to the chase. His rationale makes no sense because the worms are, the fat and hungry and fat off of what's left in his brain. So that's what's happening with the HHS. Here's how tariffs might actually affect automakers. The 25% tariffs on vehicle parts imported from the United States from outside the U.S. are expected to have a significant yet varied impact on North American automakers. The question is how much the cost to the automakers will be able to be absorbed, and if not, then passed on to consumers through higher prices. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Either way, the levies will likely reduce their profits, while prices are expected to jump about $6,700 per vehicle, which means they're just shifting where that profit is going to come from. They're going to raise the cost of the vehicles. Now, we may see a reduction in sales. Anyhow. And last but not least, Major League Baseball is confronting what we would call a growing wealth gap. Wealth differential in Major League Baseball has turned into a gaping chasm, according to the Wall Street Journal. The Los Angeles Dodgers spending nearly $500 million on their roster, while the Miami Marlins spend just $70 million. This growing imbalance alienates fans and could spark a labor dispute. That's right, with the current agreement expiring in 2026. The Major League Players Association remains opposed to a salary cap, which is already in place in the NFL, NBA, and NHL. I hate to bring not pleasant news or not pleasant items, but I'm not one to hide us from things that are real, that are happening in our lives. So just to share those things with you, stay plugged in, stay focused. Our guests this week, in one way or another, have all said a version of the same thing, whether they be local charitable organizations or they be folks running for congressional offices. And that's to stay engaged and stay plugged in. So we want to do our best to continue to inspire you in that space. So that's why we bring you these items and Choose Views News. Keep you posted what's happening. We have some other sort of breaking news that we'll talk about after we come back from this first break about what's happening congressionally. So let's take a quick break, Henry, a little bit earlier than normal, but sometimes I'm late for breaks, so we'll make up the difference. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
You're You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views on this Friday, 28th of March, 2025. So, things to do in Chicago this weekend. Couple things that you guys that are in Chicago can do and hanging out. Of course, it's, as we said, it's Women's History Month, and not that we're coming to the end of that, but based on the calendar. But this weekend, there are lots of good things happening in the Chicagoland area, as always. Started yesterday, the Other Fair, that's going to be taking place today through Sunday. Check that out. And this weekend, starting tomorrow, the Frida Kahlo's Month in Paris. Don't miss the first ever exhibit of Kahlo's work at one of the most renowned art museums in the world. What would that be? The Art Institute of Chicago. So that'll be starting tomorrow going through July. So we'll talk about that again in the weeks to come. Puccini's La Bohème is the stirring music and unforgettable characters that we all have seen and heard about over the years, whether you're an art person or not, or a theater person or opera person or not. And that's been going on, but it'll be happening this weekend, so make your way to the Lyric Opera House if you want to check that out. White Sox kicked off their season, home game yesterday at Guaranteed Field. So they'll be playing this weekend against the Dodgers. That should be fun for those who are baseball fans, whether you're Sox or Cubs. That's what I've always said. Go see them both. They don't play each other except with that weekend thing that they do. So, you can go see both teams. Let's see what else is happening. Betrayal. Stage and screen stars Helen Hunt. Robert Sean Leonard will be here from, the 28th through the 30th at the Goodman Theater, 170 North Dearborn. Check it out. The Bulls are playing the Dallas Mavericks tomorrow at the United Center. So if you're into checking out the Bulls and all that, make your way over there. And Miguel Gutierrez, Super Nothing, is a dance performance by artist and choreographer Miguel Gutierrez. And that'll be at the Museum of Contemporary Art, 220 East Chicago Avenue. That's taking place this evening through April 6th. Spring Weeks of Play at Chicago's Children's Museum. That's at 700 East Grand Avenue. And so check that out. And quick correction, Miguel Gutierrez is going to be just today, this evening at the Contemporary Art Museum, Museum of Contemporary Art, 220 East Chicago Avenue. Spring Weeks at Play at Chicago's Children's Museum will be starting today going through April 6th. So just to get those dates right for you. At the Children's Museum, which is located at 700 East Grand Avenue here in Chicago. So, guys, get out and about. Things to do. If you're not sure, give me a call, and I'll tell you. Or send me an email. Yeah, send me an email. Another thing you can do, although it's not happening this weekend, is make sure that you make your way online to check out what the WCPT May 3rd anniversary event. Now, tickets are sold out. We said that before this week, but we're going to be up at Max and Benny's restaurant in Northbrook. Hope you'll tune in that day because from 11 until 3, as you've heard, you'll hear Hal Sparks, Scott Duff, Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and myself. We'll be broadcasting live with special guests. So be sure to visit our heartlandsignal.com/anniversary to check out the sound gallery that we posted, including great interviews over the years that you guys will appreciate. So you'll catch us there. It should be fun. We're looking forward to a great event. Speaking of things that are going on here in Illinois, there was a letter, a handwritten letter that was sent, not to me, but to Governor Pritzker. And I'll try to post this on my socials if I can pull it up. But basically, one of the things that I always like to do is just talk about our governor when he's doing great stuff. And we may have some surprises for you guys in April. So we'll keep you posted on that. But a gentleman and his husband who moved here from Tennessee recently wrote a letter to Governor Pritzker. And the synopsis, the edited version of this letter is essentially, we're so proud to be residents of Illinois now, having moved here from Tennessee. Our decision to relocate, we did not take lightly. But we chose to move to a place where we would be welcomed as two gay men. And we've witnessed firsthand hostility in many parts of the country toward our community, and the rise in discriminatory actions and legislation and rhetoric. and attacks on fundamental rights just to live in a home with someone that you love and feel safe. We did not find that in Tennessee any longer, but by moving to the state of Illinois, we have been treated with inclusion and policies that affirm the right to openly live without fear. And thank you, Governor Pritzker. I won't mention the person's name, but I got that. That was sent to me, and I thought that's who Illinois, that's who Chicago tries to be. That's who Illinois tries to be. And it's a reflection of the leadership that we have. So, you know, like I said, every now and again, when I find something like that about what we're doing here, it says that our state's leading. The state of Illinois is taking a lead in this craziness right now. And so, you know, you guys know I phrase it this way, not perfect with, you know, all of our imperfections a little bit to the John Legend song. But we are striving to be better and be the leader for the country from Illinois. And I'm proud that we have a governor and a lieutenant governor and other state representatives and administrative folks in this state that are doing the work. So kudos to Governor Pritzker for that leadership, which leads to a letter. Talk about some national things that are happening. We're going to, so I want to let you guys kind of know how we're going to do some things in a second, a half hour today. But it comes with a question that I want to throw out to everybody. We got some clips that we want to lean into that speak about what's happening with this Signal securities breach event. And some of our leading voices definitely spoke loudly about it. But a couple things I want to say to our Republican colleagues. And I'm sorry, I said that the wrong way. What I want to say to our Democratic colleagues about their Republican coworkers. Stop using colleagues when you're referencing Republicans that you have to work with in the House or the Senate. Stop referring to them as your colleagues. It makes it sound like you guys are buddy-buddy. And maybe you are. But for those who are voters, those who are the public and the quote-unquote American people, we don't need to hear you any longer say my Republican colleagues or my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Call them what they are. At best, your coworkers. And more realistically, the opposition, not the opposition, you guys should be the opposition party, but call them what they are, which are the obstructionist party. My obstructionist colleagues. If you want to use colleagues, Henry, we got to stop him from saying my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. My obstructionist colleagues on the other side of the aisle might be better if you still want to put colleagues in the mix. Stop living in that past of, you know, we're going to legislate and find common ground. There is no common ground. You got to stamp out the fire. And you have to do it by letting the Republican obstructionist colleagues or obstructionist coworkers, because just because you work at a place with somebody doesn't mean that they have your best interest at heart. Right, Henry? Mm-hmm. So you got to, Democrats, stop doing that. Stop it now. Republicans are not your colleagues. They're coworkers at best. And worst case scenario, they are the obstructionist party. So the difference between a colleague and a coworker. Coworkers are individuals who share the same workplace and may interact professionally, but lack personal connection and conviction to a common cause. In contrast, colleagues are friends. They know about each other's lives outside of work, interests, hopes, and challenges, and they work in concert to improve all of them. The Republican Party is not trying to do that, Democrats. They are not your colleagues. They are your coworkers at best. And if you want to use colleagues to this old conversation stuff, then refer to them as your obstructionist colleagues. I would be, you know what, it would be interesting, Henry, to see how the media would react and cover if Jeffries or Schumer or anyone said our obstructionist colleagues or my obstructionist colleagues on the right or on the other side of the aisle. You know, put that modifier in there. I guess that would be an adjective. Obstructionist colleagues rather than my colleagues. It makes it, I mean, again, the definition doesn't fit the person. And just because you work together doesn't mean that they have your best interests at heart. So stop calling them that. I'm going to take your calls, obviously, throughout the course of the show. But this second hour, this 6:30 to 7, I want to ask this question of everybody. And call us and give us an answer. You can text it, but call us and give us an answer. And that would be, what do you feel or think the Democrats stand for right now? And this is not about bashing Democrats. This is about finding ways to help them do better. What do you think the Democrats stand for right now? Want to know. Want to hear what you guys have to say. And in that space, I want to hear that because I want to know what we might be able to collectively say to then define how we're going to go forward in helping the Democratic leadership across the board on a national level. Here on a local level, I think that that question plays as well. What do you think the Democratic leadership stands for? And you may have different views for different levels of politics, but I'm curious about that, and we'll take your calls in that space. Now, before we go to this break, if you don't think that as much as we are pushing our Democratic leaders to do better, if you don't think that folks like myself and many others who've been talking about the importance of the House of Representatives happens to be, then the point was proven by the fact that they have yanked Elise Stefanik's UN nomination. She's the House member in New York, one of the 3 seats that we are going after. We had Gay Villamont on yesterday talking about what she's doing down in Florida, and I hope you guys have found a way to reach out to her, support her. And by the way, we had some folks that jumped on the bandwagon of supporting Blessings in a Backpack. I got an email from Dan Summons, the managing director, that some folks jumped in and said, yeah, we want to help. So there you go. Same thing with Gay Villamont down in Florida. But clearly, Henry, we're having the Republicans recognize, the obstructionist colleagues on the right recognize that those seats are close, those races are close in Florida. And they recognize that the one in New York is close, too, if that nomination had gone forward. So Elise Stefanik is no longer the nominee for United States ambassador. And that is purely for one reason. It is that do not believe any of the hype or the stall that the Republicans are going to try to throw at the media. It's purely because they know, because of their carnage, that their actions are not working, that Trump's executive orders are destructive and harmful to the country. They recognize that voters are upset, and that's not to say that people are jumping ship of the Republican Party. Representative Jeffries seems to think that that's happening, and maybe he knows more behind the scenes in that space. But one thing for sure, they pulled her because they know that seat it could be the balancing seat. We pick off these 2 in Florida. Let's just say we do that. They have a 1-seat majority. And I've been saying this for weeks now, have I not, Henry? We get lucky, we get fortunate, whatever the wording is, we get that blessing of trying to reset the scales here, and we were to get all 3. We're not going to get New York. It's unlikely. But we still could get Florida, so then it's 1 seat. And then this goes back to what Representative Underwood said earlier in the week, that then it makes it a hell of a lot easier for us to get a few Republicans on certain legislation to see that they're in districts where they're a purple district, and we may be able to peel off some more and more with different elections. But here's the other part. It makes the work toward the midterms a hell of a lot more exciting and easy. Easy is not the right word, but achievable. Let me use the right word to then really, truly flip the House. So this is why I say, guys, we can't put our heads in the sand. We have to fight. We have to recognize that this is not over just because this guy's come into office and throwing out these executive orders. They realize that there's more than just smoke in this situation. There's some fire. So there you go. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hit you with a few clips that I think you guys will appreciate. The number is 773-763-9278. We'll also be taking your calls. We'll be right back.
It's Chew's Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Chew's Views, 773-763-9278. So this signal thing, I apologize, this signal breach and event has definitely become a big thing. It's getting bigger and bigger. What I want to see happen, what I hope to see happen, is that the Dems do not let go of this. They can't let go of this one here. They can't, no matter what anybody says in the media, no matter what anybody says that are their obstructionist colleagues, they have to continue to fight and hold on to this one, because this is, and I'm going to say from a political standpoint, they gave them something beyond the carnage the previous 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the executive orders and the destruction and Doge and all that. They gave them something that is they can put their teeth into, because it literally is turning into a cover up. It's turning into some folks lied. It isn't about just, it's about stupid behavior. It's about incompetence. It's about mediocrity. It's all those things. But the Dems have to hold on to this. They have to push the narrative as it relates to cover up, as it relates to you're in a red district and you have friends and family in a blue district, and your children are in the military. They're serving their like we're going to talk about in a second. They were put in harm's way already as service men and women. But to then have this reckless action and incompetency, there's a term in the military uses, it's called spillage. This is more than that. This was a vat. And no matter how they try to get around it, tap dance around it, the Dems cannot let them do that. They have to stay. Literally every day there should be a person. And in general, I've said this before, but on this subject, there should be a person every single day that says from the House, this is problematic. Hell, Democratic state legislators should be talking about this. See, that's how I think you fight. All players means all players. So Democratic state representatives here in Illinois need to be talking about this to folks in their districts, because there may be a military base in a district that is in a more rural area of a blue state. Okay. Those folks may have a child or a spouse or a member of their family or just a friend down the street that should have to be thinking, does the administration have my back? So even state representatives need to be talking about this, not just the federal representatives. That's how we fight, guys. That's how we fight. We have a handful of clips that Henry and I put together that I think you guys will appreciate in terms of the voices of our elected officials in talking about this and talking about how absolutely horrible this is, irrespective of the outcome of the mission, if you will. It has nothing to do with the outcome. Don't go for the okie doke. Someone asked me last week, what's the okie doke? The okie doke is the shiny object over here, and okay, it's all right. No, don't fall for that, y'all. This is another. Call your leaders and say you need to be in their backsides about this daily. So like I said, Henry and I have a few clips that we put together that we want you guys to hear. The first one is from a national security voice that you guys will appreciate, that was on Jen Psaki, former Department of State spokesperson Ned Price.
Not everyone is always going to be in Washington for a meeting of the Principals Committee to have these discussions in person. It's perfectly natural, for example, that the Secretary of State might be traveling overseas. But when a cabinet secretary like that travels, a team goes ahead of him or her, builds essentially a top secret tent, usually in the person's hotel room, to allow that person to be beamed back by secure video teleconference into the White House Situation Room. I can recall maybe one or two locations I traveled with the Secretary Blinken where we weren't able to establish our own top secret network there for him to do that. So we didn't spend the night, and we didn't go far from the airplane where he could do the same. Jen, I say all of that in the abstract. One set of meetings really comes back to me as I see you on screen and think back to our time together, and that's a series of Principals Committee meetings that we were a part of in December 2016, when we were deciding how to respond to Russia's attack against our democracy in the 2016 elections, precisely what economic sanctions to levy, what Russian intelligence officers to P&G from the country, and what additional measures we would take in response. Of course, we had those discussions in the Situation Room because that was a normal course of things. But to put it bluntly, we didn't want the Russians to know what we were going to do before we did it so that they weren't able to blunt the effectiveness of our response. It's precisely the same dynamic with this military information vis-a-vis Yemen and the Houthis. I also raise this example, Jen, because of the time frame. It took place in December of 2016, these series of Principals Committee meetings on Russia that you and I were part of. It was tremendously inconvenient, you may recall, for all of us to go to the Situation Room the day before Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, a day after Christmas. But that is the nature of these jobs. You are subjected to inconvenience. Your personal schedule gives way to the demands of national security. Among the many things that are so frustrating and mind-blowing about this episode is, yes, these guys were careless. They were reckless. They were incompetent. But they were also just downright lazy. Rather than travel down the hallway to the Situation Room or beam in from a tent that had been set up by a team of experts, they chose to use their phones, maybe even their personal cell phones that were on their persons. Jen, our national security and convenience often work at cross purposes. These guys chose convenience over our national security.
Yes, they did. And so as Ned puts it, it was all those things, and it was just flat out laziness. Because they have Henry, it's not like they didn't have the tools or the access to the tools to do this in a highly secured environment. They had them. They were just flat out lazy. And that should tell you, once again, a lot about this administration and the people that they've selected. They're not only incompetent and mediocre, but they're lazy. This was so I wanted to spend some time on this today because we have voices. We often ask our leading voices to speak to things more powerfully, if nothing else. And so we want to give you guys the opportunity to hear that there are folks that are speaking to this loudly, and we feel that our part of our responsibility in this space is to talk about it, right? And I talked about our wonderful leadership here in the state of Illinois, and I know that some folks would say, "Yeah, on a federal level, Durbin's kind of not. He's become more of an anchor than a buoy." And I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that or fully agree with it, but I will say that he's missed some opportunities to do some things that could have been done much differently with his votes and things and folks that should have been called in front of a Senate Judiciary hearing. Now, having said that, our junior senator has had a lot to say, and she has been unapologetic in her saying and in her wording. And that's one of the things that I love about our U.S. Senator, Tammy Duckworth. So we have a couple of clips from her most recent explanations and sharings about what has taken place from her perspective as one, a U.S. Senator, as two, an American, and as three, someone that has direct experience in this space of this signal event. So, Henry, let's hit him with that first clip.
I think he should resign because he put those pilots in danger. If you look at the text chain, that's my response was immediately after I read the actual text chain that showed him putting up on this unsecured platform, the drones are going to strike. And then he put down exactly how long it was going to be until the F-18s were going to be over the target area. If anybody had compromised that chain, those pilots could have been in danger. And that's why I was so upset. And I used my Army language in that text because he is the guy that's leading the military, and he put those pilots in direct danger And by the way, if I were our allies, if I were the UK or any of our allies, I would think twice about sharing intelligence with us in the future, because we've shown that our Secretary of Defense, our national intelligence community, does not know how to safeguard classified information.
Let me ask you about the classified portion of this. Obviously, there's potential criminal liability here, whether or not this was classified information. But we've also now had these blunt assertions from the president, from other White House officials, from Mr. Hegseth, saying that there was nothing that was classified or that could be construed as classified information in the text. We know what Mr. Goldberg has published. We know that the NSC says that they've verified that this was the actual text chain. Does it seem to you that this is classified information?
It absolutely is. Any type of targeting information, sequencing of the attack, that's automatically classified. And that's why I called him a liar, because he's been saying there was no classified information. And then this text chain gets published, and we see clearly that it is classified information and that it directly put those pilots in danger.
So, to her point, and we've got another clip we're going to get to in a second, but I want to make a couple comments because in my notes, one of the things I want to make sure you guys are aware of, because of what's happening, what happened in this scenario, the United Kingdom and Canada both have had leaders publicly say, we got to take care of ourselves because we can't trust what has been for decades our biggest ally, the UK and Canada, y'all. So if you have a Republican friend, and I hear some, I mean, and I can't call out I'm not going to call out other voices in the progressive conversation. I'm not going to do that on the air. But I've got my observations about some things that have been said recently. You can ask me about that privately. But my point is this, Henry. We have two of our biggest, best, longest allies on the planet questioning how down we should be with the United States. That is not cool. So the point I was about to make is if you've got family, friends, business associates, truly colleagues, not, obstructionist colleagues, co-workers, that you believe in and trust, they need to know that this is real. If you've got folks that are on the right, if you will, of this conversation, that are the MAGA, still MAGA folk, and even some that might be labeled as conservative Democrats that are, following this craziness, you've got to be willing to let them know. If our allies, for no provocation, are saying, hey, we need to tread a little bit more carefully here because we can't trust. We're concerned about the American leadership's ability to have their stuff together. That's a real. See, guys, this is why when I hear folks talk about things like, and I got a great clip, not a clip, but I got a text that just reminds me of something that people have got to stop lying to themselves. And I'm trying to figure out how I want to play this. And I'm going to give you the edited version. Someone sent me a text this morning that said, I would like for the certain voices to stop dragging Vice President Harris. I'm giving you the edited version because I can't mention the names of some of the people that this person put in the text about how she didn't speak to people the right way. And you guys have heard me say this before, how she didn't, have a platform that spoke to the middle class, working class folks. And I've said for the longest time that that's a bunch of BS. And that, like David Jolly has said, our ideas, our plans are better for everybody. And maybe messaging, we could get into that conversation. But the point I'm making and tying this together is this. Pay attention to me here. I'm tired of Democrats saying that we didn't do and then fill in the blanks. I needed something to vote for. She didn't tell me enough about this, inflation, the price of eggs, gas, housing, on all the items. She spoke to those. And I'm tired of hearing people say, But she didn't just speak quite well enough, right enough, Richard. Because you said you needed something to vote for. How about voting for protecting democracy? How about voting against where we are right now in less than 70 frickin' days? How about voting against having our allies go, I don't know, Henry, I can't trust them dudes down the street. We may not want to go that way this time. You know, Henry comes to me and says, Richard, hey, man, we should go a different route because I can't trust them. I mean, we've been able to trust them for a while, but maybe we should, go a different direction. Or at least not even go in that direction at all. That's what's happening. So you don't always have to have something to vote for. And if it's in this case, the for could have simply been to protect democracy. And I'm actually disappointed today after when I heard these two UK leaders say, UK and Canadian leaders say, I don't know, y'all. That probably is one of the things that hurt my heart more than a lot of other things have recently. Because those allies have been with us through thick and thin. When we got attacked on 9/11, they were the first to step up. Can you all understand that? Do you all hear me? They were the first to step up. When we got attacked, and 78 million knuckleheads bent themselves into a pretzel to say, I don't know about Kamala, she's not quite right, or even... You could have voted against this carnage because now your neighborhoods, your communities that are red are already being impacted by this carnage. And how could you be so damn stupid, arrogant, and willfully ignorant because you didn't think that Vice President Harris spoke to you just quite the right way? And frankly, some of the union folk out there that are high in the union conversation, I'm tired of hearing you all go on about what she didn't do in that space. And particularly if you bent yourself into a pretzel to vote for Trump because you're one of the former Bernie bros. And I ain't got nothing against Bernie. I'm just talking about that part of this conversation. Because now we have two of our biggest allies that are questioning how they should be in business with the United States of America. Do you all realize the magnitude of that? If we were to get attacked, the question is, can we be hopeful and confident that our two biggest allies are going to be there because they don't know necessarily if information from a security standpoint is being handled the right way? So, Henry, let's go to our other clip from Senator Duckworth.
All of these people, once they realized the type of information that was on this chain, if they were responsible with that type of information, what should they have done? And who do you think is most culpable in terms of their behavior here?
Well, that's just why I say they should all lose their jobs, because they needed to have spoken up. As soon as he put that information on there and posted the information about the sequencing, what the strike was going to be, what platforms were going to be used, Tomahawks, drones, F-18s, for example, someone on that chain should have said, hey, this is not the correct platform. Let's switch over to the SIPRNet. And not a single one of them spoke up. That is egregious dereliction of duty in terms of their jobs. They needed to have spoken up, especially those who are in the intelligence community. And don't tell me that they don't know that. You've got Tulsi Gabbard, who, claims that she's a combat veteran and she has all this experience. You've got the CIA director, who at one point was also the DNI at one point in the previous administration. These people know better, and not a single one of them spoke up, which is why they're all culpable.
That's right. They're all culpable. Guys, you know me by now. I'm passionate about this stuff, and I give Senator Tammy Duckworth her props. So what does she call it? Her Army language? Because listen, she is not afraid to throw down. And I hear people use the phrase that people are a badass. Excuse my language, but she is. She's certifiable. If you don't know anything about Senator Tammy Duckworth, wherever you are in the country, you don't have to be in Illinois, but wherever you are in the country listening to this show, You need to Google Senator Tammy Duckworth so you can see how much of a badass she is and what she's gone through. She's a lot of a lot of times Henry will say, so-and-so's the first ever. Tammy Duckworth checks that box on a handful of occasions. So I will tell you, and I had the blessing of meeting her probably 15, 16 years ago. I will tell you that when it's somebody that can get it done, that had to be in the bullets flying literally past her head in a crisis moment, she delivered and paid just about the next two price for it. Sans losing her life. So if you don't know who she is and all you've seen is some of clips of her and this, that, and the other, you need to treat yourself and Google her and look her up and then understand why I am proud of what she's doing right now and unfiltered as she needs to be. And I'm okay with her dropping some expletives. Because like my sister Linda has said to me, and I've mentioned this the other day, every now and again, some well-placed expletives gets people's attention. And that's what Senator Duckworth is doing right now. Henry, let's hit him with one more clip in this space from Senator Mark Warner.
The bottom line is what Americans realize. These guys got caught making a royal classic screw-up. They won't acknowledge it. This weakens us not only in terms of our intelligence community, people saying, holy heck, I'm working for the leadership that doesn't have my back, and what it says about our credibility around the world. You know, you can't put this genie back in the bottle with this kind of incompetence. So yes, Hegseth should go. He should resign or get fired. And if there is not accountability and we allow this to go on, the signal that sends to the rest of the world, the signal that sends to, like, if you're in the military, if you think your lives could be put in, frankly, in danger because your leadership doesn't keep confidential your action plans, this is not hard to figure out.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. Anything less than, I think my late father-in-law used to say a version of this, get rid of all the bums or kick all the bums out. I forgot how he exactly used to say it, but the point is, get rid of all the bums. All of them need to go. Every last one of them. And let me help you guys out with this. I came prepared. From what I understand, these are the folks that were on that chain. J.D. Vance, Vice President, gone. And take your wife with you. Rather than to Greenland. Y'all know why that trip got canceled, right, Henry? Because of the fact that nobody wanted them to stay and visit. That should tell you something. Anyhow, Vance, Michael Waltz, not Walls, Waltz, Hegseth, Rubio, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, Bessent, Wiles, Miller, Witkoff, Kent. All of them should be gone. All of them should be gone right now. No questions asked. But the administration is weak. They don't have the ability. They don't have the honesty. They don't have the character. They're not built that way. They all should be gone, y'all. Bye. Go away. Go kick rocks in sandals. Have a Thelma and Louise moment. I don't know whatever you want to call it. All the above. But they need to be gone. And I'm proud of Senator Mark Warren and Senator Duckworth for calling it out without the filter that they may sometimes have to use. And treat yourself to Senator Duckworth. She is a definition of a badass. I want to speak to something that, before we go to this break, that let me just get into it. Representative Jasmine Crockett, and I spoke to this earlier in the week, made a comment about Governor Greg Abbott. Hot mess, Hot Wheels. You guys have seen it probably by now. And there have been some funny memes out there about him. Because he is a hot mess, and he has done some very awful things to humanity, human beings. But there's been this call, and some Fox people particularly, and some others, some weak A's, that have been saying things like, she needs to apologize. It wasn't ladylike. It wasn't representative of a House of Representatives. The normal garbage, Henry. And I say unequivocally, no, do not apologize. Keep leaning in hard. And for those on the right and the weak, those on the left that are moderate weaknesses, but anybody that wants her to apologize, I tell her to hold the line and go for even greater clarification. Maybe Greg Abbott should apologize to the people whose lives he destroyed. But until Donald apologizes for, and this words I can't say, referring to black athletes as sons of bees, a black congresswoman as crazy and low IQ, women as nasty, fat pigs, dogs, slobs, disgusting animals, black nations as you-know-what whole countries, black prosecutors as rabid animals, the vice president, the former vice president, as a dummy, degenerate, and grossly incompetent. The black president is a founder of ISIS, former black president, founder of ISIS, ignorant and a catastrophe. You can kind of get out of my way on this Hot Wheels, hot mess thing until the current president and apologizes to the journalist who he mocked. That even Meryl Streep at an award show was almost brought to tears about how that was just absolutely disgusting and un-American. Until that happens, anybody that says that Jasmine Crockett should apologize can go kick rocks in sandals and have a Thelma and Louise moment. Until that happens, keep that outrage out of your mouth because it's not going to land particularly well with a lot of people. Just to say, so you guys kind of know where I stand in case you didn't know. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Guys, why did I let Stevie open on our second half hour? Because our good friend Karen Byrne is celebrating a happy birthday today.
A big happy birthday today.
Welcome to the show.
60,
happy
y'all.
Birthday.
Thank you. That was so nice.
You're
Thank
very,
you.
very welcome. Yeah, Henry and I were like, yeah, let's. The mad scientist and Henry was like, we can do that.
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I don't feel any older
than
I was yesterday,
That's
right?
the question I asked Karen. Do you feel any different today than you did yesterday?
Yeah.
And she said, absolutely not. So, happy.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the show and being here in studio. As you heard me wrap up or in the last segment, we were talking about a handful of things. Certainly this tragedy and crazy incompetency with this signal debacle. I mean, there's so many adjectives that we can place on it. But one of them, I think the biggest one, I shouldn't say the biggest because that's probably going to change. The biggest part of this for me right now is what I said a moment ago about our foreign allies and what, leaders in the UK and Canada are saying. about their concerns about where they need to be and what they need to do in protecting themselves, because they can't. Their concerns that they can't trust the United States when it comes to security and other information.
Intel sharing.
Intel sharing.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're being hyperbolic at all. I think that as leaders of their country, they need to have that. They need to send that message to their citizens.
Yes.
That, okay, we aren't going to wait until something happens.
No.
To prepare ourselves in the event that when something does happen.
Right.
We don't want to be caught short. So, listen, I applaud our brothers and sisters and leaders in the UK and Canada.
Absolutely. What has been is no longer, and that is the reality that our allies are waking up to. And, you know, I mean, really, if we look back to the first month of his first occupation of the White House, he had Russians in there and was sharing classified information, Israeli information, that put a lot of people, a lot of the operations and the people that were out in the field in danger. So this is not anything new, and this is just taking it to another level.
Why would you have why would you ever have a meeting where you don't have the necessary tools in the meeting? I'm going back to the Russia meeting where he had Koselnik, or whatever the dude's name. Don't need to repeat the names, but why would you not have the proper people in that meeting? The interpreters and the proper note takers and so forth and so on, unless something stinky was going on.
Well, but, you know, let's think about Helsinki, and he had that closed-door meeting with Vladimir Putin, and the note taker was the only person that was in there, and something happened to the notes, or, you know, there was,
So, guys, here's to go back to something that Karen said about sharing intel. One of the things that keeps us safe is not just the sharing of intel, but the accuracy of it. And so when I dig into this debacle with Signal, and the reason that I've said that this is very concerning, I don't want to sound like Susan Collins or Mitt Romney, but it's concerning for people who are active duty. See, we keep talking about this. Yes, they should all step down because of the breach and now the cover-up, because that's what it is now. But it's the safety of our men and women that are active duty.
Absolutely.
How do we know that their lives are not going to be put in danger? Because this is how, if it had been handled this way, we could probably take this a little bit differently. If they had come out and said, we screwed up here.
Right.
And the mission was successful, but we made a mistake, and we won't do it again. And here's what we're going to do to fix it going forward. Then I would feel a little bit more certain and concerned, not concerned, but certain and less concerned, a little bit safer that our men and women that are active duty in all branches, including the Coast Guard, are safe.
Right.
And what about members of the CIA? And the list goes on. I feel like we're watching an early episode of Mission Impossible movies.
Right. No, it just...
The knock list.
It goes on and on, but, you know, honestly, the buck stops at the top, right? I mean, it's supposed to. If it was a Democratic president, you're the commander-in-chief.
I've been waiting for you to go there. If it were a Democratic president, why don't you take that baton and run with it?
I don't understand why every member of Congress, including the Republicans who swear the same oath that those good men and women in our military swear to defend and protect the Constitution,
foreign and domestic,
orange bloviated buffoon that he even swore. So, you know, my issue with Republicans is that, you know, when I hear Democrats say, my friend or my colleague.
My obstructionist colleagues on the right.
Behind closed doors, they're not okay with this, and they're very concerned. And then you have John Cornyn, and you have Susan Collins, and their deep concern and admission, pointing out the obvious that this is a problem. And then we hear them say, well, because they're afraid. They're not going to come out, and they're not going to speak out because they're afraid. Well, and I would argue, though, like my brother served 6 years in the Marines during Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And he came back from that, and he, you know, talked about what he saw, and he was afraid. And he said, I was afraid, even the year lead up going in, the shield part of it, there was a lot of anxiety around that. Mm-hmm. Okay. But when it comes down to it, that oath that you swore
pushes you past your fear.
Supersedes the fear and pushes you past it. So I would call on all of these Republicans.
His fear
yes.
was legitimate. Life could be altered, immediate fear versus these punks and punkettes who are sitting around going, well, I'm concerned, probably in private, that, they're going to get primaried. So what? Step up. You swore an oath.
We're afraid.
We're afraid. Step up and tell the truth.
Right. Tell the truth.
This is what cracks me up. Y'all please hear this, and we're going to grab a couple quick calls while Karen's on. If you believe in this country and you swore this oath to defend it against foreign and domestic, mm-hmm. and you're afraid of the thing that is this Trump and Musk, don't you realize the power you actually have is to sit down with the Dems and say, listen, we don't agree on a lot of stuff, mm-hmm. but in this case, they all got to go. And just come out and say, 435 strong, your behind's got to go. All of you.
Yes.
Get rid of him and get somebody in that, if it were going to be a Republican.
Right.
But we hear this oftentimes about the Dems have lost their way and the Dems are this and the Dems. Hell, the Republicans mm-hmm. are far greater at having lost their way because they can't even tell the truth about what they know is happening.
Right.
In their own caucus when it comes to this carnage.
They know that the emperor has no clothes. They know that this guy is a complete moron. He does not have the best people. He is the judgment of a gnat. Okay, so, give me a break. That man, he needs to go. He needs to go. Every single member of Congress should be calling for impeachment.
Yeah. Without a doubt, because there's no way that he wasn't aware of this. And because it's a military, and if he wasn't aware, you go.
And if he wasn't aware, that's a problem.
Which is worse. Did he knew or that he didn't know?
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, I'm the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military and its operations, and this was a military operations.
If he wasn't aware, then it speaks to his fitness and the confidence of the people closest to him, including, by the way, J.D. Vance, who was his vice president, who was in on that call.
I got the list. Vance, Waltz, Hegseth, Rubio, Gabbard, Radcliffe, Bessent, Wiles, Miller, Witkoff, and Kent. They were on the call. They got to go.
Yeah.
They were in the room. Well, they should have been in the room.
And one of them...
They should have been in the room, but they weren't.
Right, exactly. And one of them was a Russian envoy.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Nance is his head's been exploding all over the place.
That was, hold on a second. I think I got this right here. Sorry, Karen. I had it ready, but didn't have it in front of me in my eyes. Oh, maybe if I put my glasses on, that might help. Who was a Russian envoy? Steve Witkoff.
Yeah.
Was in Moscow.
Sure. So when you go to the Kremlin, and Malcolm talks about this, when you go anywhere around any, Vladimir Putin, or you give up your phone. Mm-hmm. And once they have it, they have you. They have every correspondence. The cell phone is the transmitter. Do y'all understand that they had the ability to grab information during this call while an American envoy, Steve Witkoff, was in Russia? Just stop being stupid, people. Mm-hmm. MAGA particularly, and weak Democrats, stop being stupid. Stop saying Kamala Harris didn't do this, that, or the other, when we know doggone well she said everything that needed to be said. Y'all just couldn't. You could not. You wanted something to vote for. You could have voted for democracy mm-hmm. and preserving our relationships with our allies, national security. But you needed to lie to yourselves and bend yourselves into pretzels. Mm-hmm. You could have voted against this time. Right.
You could have voted against, and you chose not to. Karen, let's grab a couple of quick calls, guys. Let's go real quickly to Jim here in Chicago. Good morning, Jim. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. I'm my Easter egg hunt a little early this year for the first time in a long time. And my one regret in life is that I didn't go to Trump University, because I could have been happily defrauded by the 25,000 people that he defrauded. But what's interesting is this attack on higher education. You've got McMahon ransoming Columbia University. They're dictating curriculum. This is an outfit that couldn't run a fake school.
I know.
And, and think of this. So you've got a couple of choices. We can go to Hillsdale College, Prager University, or some other Republican think tank school. But what's interesting is, think of this. These institutions have been around for hundreds of years. Now, are we really going to have a generation of people who are going to go to Republican school and maybe get a glimpse of a Democratic school 300 miles away? I mean, it's so preposterous. It's so preposterous that it's...
And to your point, Jim, we have another incompetent individual, Linda McMahon, who basically lied about her educational background. There's some kids in college who do better at running the Department of Education than Linda McMahon would.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And she put a headlock on this, the president of Columbia University, and started to dictate you can't teach African American studies any longer. You can't teach this. You can't teach that. I mean, this is a wrestler. This is a wrestler. I mean, between the defrauding, stable genius, Trump University, and her. Good luck to the kids in school today. You guys have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
There's a lot of things I could say about Linda McMahon that I won't say on the air because they involve some profanity.
And this is the thing that people need to be real careful about, because I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine, and he went and he walked right into the Social Security office because his wife was like, you got to go do this thing because it's not going to be there. Go do it. Mm-hmm. He walked right in there. He was, had like in and out. And, he said he was talking to this woman who was the Social Security worker. And she said, it's, there's the only way that this goes away is with an act of Congress. And so there's just a lot of fear-mongering around this. That's what she's telling him. And so he's like, you guys are just like seriously losing it for no reason, because I literally walked right in and walked right out. And I said, well, good for you. That's because you went in. Now, that's not always going to be that way. And yes, it does require an act of Congress and for any of our departments to go away. But what they're doing is they're gutting them. Yep.Ey're working from the inside out. So it's going to still be there, but it's not going to. And what about
and to that end? It's being gutted. Departments are being gutted out for obvious reasons. They want to privatize a lot of the process of those departments that have been very successful, not perfect, but very successful and meaningful, hugely meaningful. But what about the person who doesn't have the ability to walk in literally or conveniently or easily get to a Social Security office or any of our government offices to take care of their business?
That's right.
In a convenient way that gets hollowed out.
The elderly, disabled people.
The list goes on.
Yeah.
And the ones that are being most gutted out are ones that are in less populated areas, FYI.
Yeah.
Because your friend probably went to one somewhere in Cook County, right?
Right in Chicago,
We've got tools here to help make sure that those offices are maintainable because we're a big population, we're a big community. Imagine folks that are in smaller communities,
right?
Where and they're going to be, and this is what, again, I go back to trying to be careful with my words. This is where I get very frustrated at the stupidity of folks, and I'm tired of couching, we can't call them stupid. Well, you do something stupid, I'm calling you behind stupid,
right?
And then add into that the fact that did you not think for a second that if you're in an area where there's less stuff happening, that these things that are executive orders might put you high on the list?
Right.
But anyhow, we know how these folks are. Let's grab another quick call. Let's go to Al in Franklin Park. Good morning, Al. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Al.
Good morning, Karen and Richard.
Hi, Al.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
You're one of the leaders of the step heads in Chicago here.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. I wanted to talk back to when you were saying that we can't let go this security breach, and to that, they are already trying to move the story to the next thing and saying that it was a successful hit. Nothing bad happened, and it worked. And look at what the Democrats are doing. And we have to find out the talking points of everything that really happened wrong, and talk to that media wide. Because they are talking to this media wide. They have focus groups looking at what is sticking with people to work against this. We have to. A lot of bad stuff happened here. I mean, it's unbelievable. We had people in Russia during this text thread. Mm-hmm. We know they're hiding things. They're doing it this way because they don't want it to be recorded and skirting around our laws. I mean, and all of our media has to figure out what those talking points out and do focus groups or something and all work from that. And that, Tom, WCPT, MSNBC, our senators, I mean, they do this. They have their focus groups and polling and to see what sticks, and they're working on their talking points now to get around this and move on to the next big thing, like what you said with Jamie Crockett. They're listening to every word that she says to find something that they can pick up on and they can make stick. Yeah. And they even got their counteract saying, look what she said. And Trump was never mocking the disabled guy long ago because, and they have this whole scenario about why that wasn't the case. So, yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Al.
Can I say, too, talking about polling and focus groups, the Independent put out polls. 74% of Americans look at this as a very serious issue. Right. 60% of Republicans. Yeah. So
That's why we have to hold on to it. Al, thanks for the call. We appreciate your contribution. Sure.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks, Al. We don't have to wait. This is why I said this earlier, and to Al's credit for reminding us, this is a talking point that the Dems cannot let go of, irrespective of any statistic or poll. Right. This is the thing that I don't want them to do, is to let the polling dictate what they do. Right. It doesn't need to be that way. It's already right there. It happened. They're leaning in the direction of cover up. It has to be an ongoing talking point. Yeah,
because it affects our military members, but not only that. What about the family members? Right. You and I talked about that woman, and this, she's put out a couple videos where she's calling up her representation in Oklahoma. Yeah. And she's demanding some answers.
It's a very, very viral, full of wonderful expletives. It was too many in there. There's too many F words in there in repeated fashion. I didn't want to put that on Henry to have to edit that down. But she makes it clear. She's not playing around. She said, listen, I'll give you guys the edited version, and we're going to try to grab a quick call before we go to a break. She basically says, Henry, I will quit my job. I'll use everything I have to make sure that my senators, my representatives speak to this issue, because my family was potentially put in harm's way. She's serious. Now, I'm not saying that people should quit their jobs for this, but we cannot let go of this talking point. That's the message.
Absolutely.
Let's see if we can grab Earl real quickly before we go to break. Hey, Earl, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you to you, guests. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Absolutely.
Let me quickly add that I'm going to try to bounce on two things quickly. Number one, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. In other words, there are a lot of people out there that don't pay attention to politics, who don't believe in it, and they are very stoic about it. Then there's another group of people out there that listen to right-wing media and right-wing talking points, and so they get misled. So they don't have the full appreciation of what's going on, and so they've been lied to and they believe lies. And then the third thing is they didn't believe it was going to happen to them. They thought it was whatever the country was going to happen was going to happen to those people, the other people. Those black, those brown people, those gang members, those lazy black folks and brown folks in the city. They didn't know that the cuts would affect them out in the heartland and stuff like this. Yeah. So it's very complicated. most Americans don't follow the issues like you do and your guests do, and they may not be stupid, but they may be ignorant because they don't know the facts and they can't think.
That's why I put those all together.
How to be rational.
They may not,
they don't know how to be rational.
They may not be stupid, but their actions represent stupidity. They are willfully ignorant and blindly arrogant, and those three together are dangerous mix of people who are in this country, and oftentimes are the same people who say, "Yeah, well, we need to cut education." Those elites. Well, if you took some time to get out of your own little box and learn something and be open to learning. But I hear you, Earl. I do. There's a lot of people, and we all come across those folks that are that way.
And can I say, there's a lot of us in our white families and communities that know these people. And so it's up to us to start calling that stuff out and educating them.
Good point. Earl, thanks, man. We got to hit this break.
In your family.
That's right.
And they're in your family.
Damn right.
And thanks for calling, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right,
Henry. All right, buddy.
Thanks here. Take care, Earl. All right, Henry, I don't want to put all that weight on you. Let's take a quick break because we've got a guest coming up in a little bit. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressive, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Make sure to stay tuned to the Stephanie Miller Show, our progressive lineup here on WCPT, my radio sister on the West Coast, the Tom Hartman Show, Professor of Everything, Progressive Joan Esposito, Live Local, and Progressive, and most definitely Patty Vasquez, my bookend, Driving You Home. Stay tuned, because they're going to bring you some good stuff today, as always. So, yes, we have our good friend Karen Byrne here with us today, birthday lady, little birthday girl. But we also have one of the most prolific writers in America, right here in Chicago. That's what's so cool about it. And I happen to be this is somebody that I happen to get to hang with every now and again. And, you know, what can I say other than this is once again Chicago doing what Chicago does, and that's representing and having great, wonderful people. With us this morning is American author and public historian, none other than Michelle Duster. Good morning, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit of muffling, but we got you. So listen, okay. I'll say this, guys. Michelle's always busy. I want to say Michelle's been busy recently. She's always busy. That's why it's hard to get her on, but when we can, we're thrilled that we can have her on. And for many of you who don't know, Michelle, her legacy, part of her legacy is she is the great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells. And that Michelle has done what legacy allows you to do, and that's take that legacy and magnify it and make it something even bigger and greater and influential. And that's why she is such a prolific writer and historian. And I always love it when we have Michelle on the show. But talk to us about what you are currently working on. And I'll tip everybody's hands. He's got two great bits of work recently. One is called Buy Black, and the other is called We're Done. Talk to us about these most recent articles, Michelle.
Well, yeah, I've been writing columns for Rebellious Magazine for Women, which is a locally produced magazine, online magazine by a black woman, Karen Hawkins. And so I've been writing a column called Centering Ourselves with the idea that I would write articles about kind of what's happening in the world from the perspective of black women. Of course, I don't speak for all black women, but I do kind of put my finger on the wind, and I pay attention to what's going on, and I try to capture the overall general sentiments that I see, as well as obviously my own point of view, my own opinions and take on things. And so this latest article, We Done, Black Women Don't Need Permission to Flourish, was really about after this selection of this person in the White House, it's been less than 70 days now of what we predicted would happen. And so I feel like overall our attitude, the 92% who voted for the qualified woman, is that we are not waiting for the federal government to figure out how to prioritize our needs. And so we are just going to do what we've always done as a people and take care of ourselves. And whenever they get it together, you know, maybe we'll rethink our relationship, but we don't have time to, you know, to try to wait and see if they can, you know, prioritize things and get things together and value us, because we have been collateral damage in this, you know, Dodge initiative to, you know, shrink the federal government. Black people are overrepresented in the federal government, and so that deeply affects us, as well as so many other, you know, slash and burn, you know, tactics that this administration has taken. So here we are. We're done. We are not even paying attention anymore. We're just going to do ourselves.
I've seen a number of, and thanks, Michelle, for breaking that down. I've seen a number of clips on social media, and candidly, no gloves off here, Hispanic women who've been upset at black women for not leaning in right now to help in this cause, particularly in the area of deportation. And I can't get away from the iconic, what has now become the iconic social media meme of a number of black women. Yeah, see, you knew where I was going. Of a number of black women sitting on top of a few skyscrapers with 92, meaning the percentage of black women that voted for democracy and against tyranny. Basically having their cups of coffee, chilling, watching it burn. Because if I've taken it out of my vocabulary of saying we tried to tell you. No, we didn't try to tell you. We told you. And black women particularly and specifically told everybody, and including the candidate, that this was going to happen. And so as a man, and specifically a black man, I understand the phrase "we done," and you can add to that "y'all," because you know, I stay in the fight, and I know you stay in the fight, but we're fighting it from a perspective that says, and listen, Michelle, you know this, you stay plugged into everything. Now we've got foreign leaders of countries that have been two of our best allies, the UK and Canada. They kind of are saying the same thing. We're done, y'all. We can't trust that the country that was supposedly our ally can be trusted with secure, specific information when it comes to warfare. So black women, once again, are taking the lead in this space. We're done. But we've got foreign leaders that are saying some of the same type of stuff. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like our country is schizophrenic, you know, because we went from Barack Obama to the President 45, and then we went to Biden, and then we went to the same person for, you know, President 47. And so we are erratic as a country. And if I were a foreign leader, I would be like, I don't know what direction you're coming from. I mean, even if you say you're going to be in an agreement and then 2 years later you're not in the agreement, and then you're in it and you're out and you're in and you're out. It's like, you know what? How about you all get some therapy and figure out who you are and what you stand for as a country, and then come talk to us. But, you know, this complete, like, you know, swinging back and forth, it's not sustainable for anybody to make any kind of agreements with us. I
have not heard anybody use the word schizophrenic, but why would I be surprised that it would come from Michelle Duster to use that psychological analyzation? Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way. Michelle, you're right. We have become, since Barack Obama became president, schizophrenic in our actions certainly on a federal level when it comes to electing leaders. And we went back to the same abuser. And I'm not
demeaning, he is abusive.
I'm not demeaning anyone that's been in an abusive relationship. So please, y'all, don't get your undies in a bundle about that. I'm just speaking from 10,000 feet. We went back to the abuser. Not all of us, but you know,
it is abuse. I mean, I'm not a clinician, but I do know what abuse is, and what the person in the White House is doing is emotional abuse. You know, constantly calling people names, threatening people with I'm not. So it's emotional abuse and it's financial abuse. On a micro level, on an interpersonal level, if he were doing that to an individual person, that would be considered abuse. Because financial abuse is withholding funds if you don't do what they say. Constantly threatening to defund things. That is financial abuse.
Yeah, and
emotional abuse, all the name calling and all of the, the threats. It is abuse.
Michelle, earlier I talked about this situation, and you talk about abuse and name calling with Representative Jasmine Crockett. I don't endorse anybody teasing someone about something that's an ailment, a disability, condition, whatever, a lifestyle. That's just not me, But she was stating fact. And her use of the wording, which she's a little bit of a wordsmith every now and again, was appropriate. But to ask for her to apologize, and we have, to your point, a person in the White House that has been and still is abusive and abusing people. When that apology comes, then we can have a conversation about Representative Crockett, and an apology.
And she called him Hot Wheels, which. I guess they want to consider that to be an insult. It could be considered almost, just sort of tongue-in-cheek. It depends on how people want to take it. That's different than calling somebody low IQ, low class, dumb. That's where you're attacking their character.
Yep.
And so I don't think you can have – those are not apples-to-apples level of insults. But, they want to insult everybody all the time. But then if you say anything, then all of a sudden, you're the one that's taking the low road. So that, again, is the dynamics of, we can be treated any old kind of way, insulted all the time. Look at how the 47th president acted at NABJ. Mm-hmm. That's okay. But then as soon as we say or do anything, then it's like, oh, my God. So to me, that is also abusive because it's like we don't have the same ability to come back at them. We just need to take it, always be gracious, always be, understanding, while they have no respect for us at all.
And that right now in this last few days of Women's History Month, which should be like Black History every day of the year. Women's history, like Black history, is American history. But I wanted to circle back to that in the conversation around abuse and just take it. This is another setup for women to just be put in a position, all women, but particularly Black women and other women of color, to be put in a position to just have to have things taken away from while you sit back and take the abuse. And Black women are having it. It's clear. Your article about shopping Black and Black-owned businesses is wonderful, and you guys should check it out. But Michelle, talk a little bit about that article that came out last week, I should say.
Well, yeah. So all this anti-DEI initiatives of we're going to dismantle and unravel any remnant of Black or brown or any other minority veterans. That's the thing about DEI. It's really been used as a synonym for Black, although what it really stands for is, first of all, it's an acronym. It stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which means diversity from all white men. So that includes white women. That includes veterans. It includes disabled. It includes people of color. So it's an all-umbrella diversity of people who have historically not had the same opportunities. That's diversity. Then equity is everybody being treated with the same level of respect. And then inclusion is that you're actually included you're not just in the room, but you're included in, what's happening in the room. So for these companies to say, well, no, we're going to dismantle DEI, what you're really saying is that you don't want diversity, you don't believe in equity, and you don't believe in inclusion. And we, Black women, Black people in general, Black women in particular, since we're double minority, are the collateral damage of these people saying, oh, well, you know, we don't want to be perceived as oppressing white men because, you know, it's been positioned as DEI excludes white men. So they're the victims, even though, you know, they've had about 390 years of preference. But once you have any level of attempts to have other people included, then they're the victims. And so, you know, it's like there's been this incredibly rapid dismantling of everything that was about trying to give other people an opportunity, I guess, in order to make white men feel like they have a chance because they were so disenfranchised. And so, again, you know, it's kind of like this whiplash thing because after George Floyd, all of these companies and all of these institutions were running to say, oh, we care about social justice. We're going to do something about it. And there were all of this buildup, right? All these workshops, all of these initiatives, and here we are 5 years later saying, you know what, we're done. We don't care about you people anymore. We're gonna go back to what we want because white men are upset. So again, it's like we don't have time for this. We don't have time for you to decide we're flavor of the month and then we're not. Well, we care about you. No, we don't. Yes, we do. No, we don't. We're like, you know what? While you all figuring it out, we're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to support our own businesses in our own community or organizations that are clear on where they stand and stick with it.
Yeah. And it's unapologetic. And this is the thing that I think has got a lot of non-black folk. So I'm saying this, I said it intentionally that way, non-black folk concerned. So that includes other people of color, because candidly, other people of color let down the country in this recent election as much as white female voters and white male voters did. And so I say that without any filter because that's what the numbers have indicated. And black folks stepped up as we have. And I can't say that any other more plain way. And so right now, with all these cuts and these different directions that the country's taken, we have to be willing to say we've tried and we told and we did.
We tried, we told, and we tried to bring people along. And the thing that is really frustrating is that a lot of people of color, and they don't want to admit it, but I'll say it out loud, a lot of people of color have benefited from the struggles and the sacrifices that black people made in order to push this country to be more inclusive. And they came here, some of them are immigrants, some of them are, American born, and they walked through the door that we pushed open for them.
Yep. And
then they get through the door and then they step on us.
Yep.
And so I think that's why a lot of black people are like, you know what, we're not talking to you people either, because you don't acknowledge the fact that you have opportunities because we paved the way.
I have a good...
And then you get the opportunity and you step on us. So we're done.
I apologize for cutting you off, Michelle. I shouldn't have done that because I don't want you to be done with me. Michelle, I can speak to that specifically. I have a friend that's from Europe who we were hanging out about a year and a half ago, and he made the comment. He said, well, Richard, how can it be that bad? And he did what a lot of European immigrants have done. And y'all know this, so don't be upset because you may have done it yourself. He said, he listed a few people that are black successes, the name, the number, the regular names, the usual suspects, Michael, Oprah, Tiger, LeBron, listed the Denzels of the world. And he said, what is this whole thing about reparations and why are black people so upset about da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And he literally said, my family and folks, we didn't have any slaves. We didn't benefit from slavery. And Michelle, I literally said, because I like the dude, I said, listen, I got to get to a meeting, and I was lying about. I just wanted to get the hell out of there because I didn't want to reach across the table and slap him. Because I was like, how could you be so stupid, blind, and willfully ignorant and say that? He's been in the country for 15 years. And to your point about we knocked the door open, held it open for a whole bunch of people. But then when certain people came through it, that's why this conversation around deportations and immigrants from certain parts of the southern border versus those that are coming from other parts of the world is such a slap in the face to so many people.
Yeah, and I mean, I know here in Chicago, and I'm sure some other cities, there was some friction when it came to immigrants coming here, sanctuary city, and the city comes up with all this funds to help people who came to this country, yesterday, but that they couldn't come up with the funds for the people who've been here for generations. Yeah. And I get it, that we needed to, you have to help people when they really, really need help. You don't want to just watch them suffer. But at the same time, it's like, I know a lot of people felt like, wait a minute, you've been crying broke all this time when we say that we need this in our community. But then these people come into the community and all of a sudden, magically, you have all these funds.
Yeah.
So there was some resentment, with certain people.
But what we ultimately did, again, our community rallied around for the greater good. We know that we have to, based on humanity, help everybody. And that is once again what our community has persisted at doing. We said, okay, y'all stuck us on over time without helping. But we know that based on our humanity, we're going to get past this to a certain degree to help the folks who were sent here in the way in which they were. And that just once again shows that we are fighting to keep the door open and making it right for everybody. Karen wants to say one quick comment about something you said a moment ago.
Well, first of all, no, I just want to say you send your European friend my way. Okay, I'll have a little conversation with him. But yeah, I mean, we don't have a trans problem in this country. We don't have an immigration problem in this country. The biggest problem facing this nation is white supremacy and cisgendered white male fragility. That's what we have. And I'm 60 years old, white lady named Karen, and I'm throwing my elbows out to push back against that, because that is one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest obstacles that I feel that we as a whole have standing in our way to truly being the great country that we want to be.
Michelle, wrap us up if you can. I know that we're tight on time, and I greatly appreciate you being with us this morning. But let folks know how they can follow you, how they can find your great writing, and plug into the work that you're doing in an unapologetic but very educational and informative way. Let folks know.
Thank you. Probably the easiest way is my website, which is MLD Writes, the word WRITES.com. On my website, you'll find all the social media handles and all the writing that I've done and all the projects that I've done. So that has the most information. But almost all my social media handles are at Michelle Duster.
Got it. Fantastic. Michelle, thanks for being with us. I know you've been busy, and I appreciate you taking some time out this morning so we can chat with you and get your wonderful, wonderful observations on where we are. So thanks for taking the time out.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, Michelle, good to hear your voice. Have a great weekend, okay?
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right.
I love her.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Michelle's a special woman, and she just gets it done. And I said earlier, I hope I didn't stumble over the wording. The legacy that she represents in terms of her great grandmother being the late Ida B. Wells, Michelle hasn't slept on that. That's the point I wanted to make. She knows that she has a certain element of responsibility and influence in that space, and she takes it and runs with it.
Does.
So kudos. Follow Michelle Duster. If you can't figure out how to get her on, so just Google her name, and you need to get with some of the stuff that she's writing, whether you're black or other minority groups or other groups of color or not. What she writes is about how we as a country have to do better.
And her website is MLDWrites.com.
Right. Mary Louis David, or Writes, WRITES. I can't speak this morning, y'all. It's Henry. What's wrong with me, man? Check out Michelle Duster. I don't know if it's realistic for us to squeeze in. Okay, Roosevelt, you got 30 seconds.
Oh,
you got 30 seconds, Roosevelt. Sorry, man. Go for it.
Okay, they arrested on Tuesday a leader of farm workers out in Washington. His name is A.K.A. Lilo. His name is Alfredo Juarez Ceferino. So he's an activist and a leader of the unions out in Washington. And they broke his car window, and he tried to just remain silent.
Saw that clip. Yes, I saw that clip. Yeah, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
So they're still targeting leaders, still targeting people that were involved in protest and things like that. So,
Roosevelt, good to hear your voice, man. Thanks for that update. I appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Let's go to Victor. Victor, you got 45 seconds. Go for it.
Richard Chu, how do you do? And Karen, too.
Hey.
Hey, Victor.
Hey, Victor.
What's going on, man?
Hey, freedom fighters. Well, just a couple of observations. One, Donald Trump keeps saying that the mission in Yemen was a success, and they killed 58 people. But we don't know if it was 58 Houthis or whatever.
Right.
And Donald Trump always lies, so the mission was probably a complete failure. They spent $500 million on this mission. And second, I'd like to say about tariffs, Donald Trump keeps saying tariffs are going to help the American people, yet every economists say that tariffs don't work. I'm talking about every single one of them, including around the world. They say tariffs do not work. How come no one's ever asked Donald Trump, how are tariffs actually going to help the American people?
Bingo.
We never hear that once. And, finally, as far as diversity, inclusion, and equity, every business and corporation and university that does not include this program is doomed to failure, because 50% of the people are women and 30% are minorities. And if you don't include these people, then you are doomed to fail, period. And that's in every business and corporation, and they know it. So whatever Donald Trump says,
take it with a grain of salt. Victor, thank you as always for your contributions, man. Stay well, and we appreciate you calling from the northwest side of the United States. Have a good weekend, Victor. All I'm going to say is thanks to our wonderful in-studio guest, the birthday lady. And as always, thanks to all of our team here for everything you guys do. My man Henry has been killing it this week, y'all, as always. So send Henry some love when you call in, when you text me. And with the weekend coming up, be safe, enjoy yourselves, get out and about if you're in the Chicagoland area or anywhere. Just get out and do something. Don't stay in the house. Don't stay in the silo. And most importantly, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you next week.